And we're back here on the Small Business Leadership Report. I am your host, Casey Callanan. I am the Chief Communications Officer with Clear Contender, podcast and content marketing agency that's fighting for your goals. And today I'm here in studio with Will Smallman. Will is a managing partner with 15-4 Creative Agency, and that is right here in Baltimore. And I'm going to ask him a little bit about what he's all about and about his agency. Welcome to the show, Will.
Thanks, Casey. It's great to be here. So yeah, 15-4, we've been around going on 20 years now, founded in 2004. As you said, we're right here in Baltimore and Hamden. For anybody who's local, we're right above the Atomic Books, which is well known for its graphic novel collection. But yeah, we've been around for a long time and started originally as a video production house and, transitioned over the years into really thinking in terms of full service creative. So we do brand strategy, graphic design, which includes brand identity, and any kind of design assets that go into a campaign. We have a full-size digital team, so we do UI, UX for app design, and also design and develop WordPress websites. And finally, we're still doing video and animation. Got a full house team.
Okay.
That is again going 20 years deep now. So our niche is really thinking in terms of B2B tech. Okay. We love tech companies. Okay. We've done the big retail work. We've worked with Stanley Black & Decker. We've worked with Under Armour. We still do some work with Home Depot and Hilton. But we've really found this niche of working with B2B tech companies that maybe have a little more of a complex value proposition. Yeah. Maybe it's a little harder to understand what they do, but they still want to speak directly to buyers and do amazing creative work that can really elevate their brand and their marketing efforts. So that's us in a nutshell.
Got it. And of course, on the Small Business Leadership Report, I'm so curious as to how you make things like payroll, how you make things like the lights stay on, because as a fellow small business owner, I know that it's not easy out there, and you have to get not just the will to do all the work, but you have to be strategic to do it as well. So I want to know about, first and foremost, tell me a little bit about some of your recent celebrations, because we love to obviously celebrate victories as small business owners. You got to celebrate when good things happen. So I want you to tell me a little bit about something maybe recently in the last year that you're excited about, or something that was successful that you can celebrate, and then something maybe that it was a challenge and that you're maybe want to tell our listeners about how you overcame it.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I mean, I think to start with, if you have the mindset of we've got to keep the lights on, that can get to be draining. And so you always have to be thinking in terms of how are we going to grow and how are we going to evolve this and how are we going to build this? Because that's what's exciting to you as an owner. And that's ultimately what your staff is going to buy into as well. So, I think we, in terms of recent sort of successes, I was really proud of some work we did with Care First. Nice. We designed from scratch, really, from wireframe through to design the interface, an app for a company they're launching called Memento. Nice. And that's now live in the marketplace. That came out of Care First HealthWorks division. So we got that opportunity to start working with them at the end of 2020 and really worked on that throughout 2021 and 2020 into 2022. And seeing that now in the marketplace is really awesome. Seeing an app that, we designed, seeing an app that I remember when they were basically like pencil sketches of wireframes, and now we're out there with that, and that was a great engagement.
That's so satisfying.
And I think we've had other great client wins lately. We're doing some really cool videos with Hilton, which is again a little outside of our tech focus. We're designing and developing a new site for a rapidly growing health brokerage called or health insurance brokerage called Gravy.
Okay.
So that's really exciting. So there's a lot of exciting client wins. I think, we, like a lot of agencies, had to really shift our whole business model in 2020. We went into 2020 cruising, having had our best revenue ever, year ever in 2019. And really the pandemic caused a lot of companies to basically just pause their spending on marketing.
Of course.
Just, on a dime, just said, we've got to hold off. Now, a lot of them resumed spending at the end of the year once we figured out that we could make remote work possible and that the economy didn't need to shut down indefinitely. But that was really a time of us thinking through in a new way as business owners, because I have 3 partners, how do we spend more wisely? How do we leverage outside talent better so that we're not, at such risk all the time of carrying, such a large payroll in-house? And that kind of coincided with a big shift of a lot of talent outside of day-to-day kind of 9-to-5 jobs and going independent like you've done. And leveraging all of this great independent talent in Baltimore and then really around the country has helped us to kind of rethink our model. So I think that in itself was a win over the last 2 years.
Totally.
Really thinking about how do we kind of expand what we think of as 15-4 outside of our Hamden office and really have it encompass good ongoing relationships with really smart independent creatives and strategists. And so that's been a big win. I think in terms of losses, I think, we've had to learn how to be a little smarter about retaining talent. I think we had some, like a lot of companies during the kind of the great, what do they call it, the great turnover, the great resignation. We had a couple of really good people who decided that coming out of the pandemic or maybe in the middle of the pandemic, it was time to move on. And we've had to really think smartly, about how to replace those people either through outside resources like I'm talking about or bringing in new people. And so that's one of the things you constantly have to think about as an owner is, I have to be here every day, and I'm gonna be here now. I'm gonna be here 5 years from now. But other people don't have to. So how can I think in terms of allowing flexible work or recognizing people when they do a great job, even if you're distracted by other things, in order to keep the best talent working for us?
Well, that leads into my next question, because as a small business owner, you are going to have to be obviously in your position managing other people that may not have the passion or the skin in the game, so to speak, to, want to see the agency, in your case, thrive the way that you as a managing partner does. So how do you motivate individuals through management principles or however to make them want it? And I know people have done structuring, just to keep going on that thought. I know structuring like ownership equity or profit sharing. We have a company here in Baltimore, Craft Brewing, Union Craft Brewing. They're all employee owned. I know that structure does not work for everyone. So if it's not in the cards because you're just getting this thing off the ground like myself is doing, how do we keep people motivated?
It's a great question, and I'd love to say that I 100% know the answer, but I feel like that's one of the things that we're constantly working on, constantly trying to figure out. I think part of it, one of the things I've told our staff at different times is, everybody in the building should feel like they have ownership over some portion of the work. So if you think of the total workload as a pie, rather than having everybody kind of nibble at different pieces of the pie, we should say, hey, this is your slice. You own this. You are the senior animator. You own this portion of the animation. Now, we're not talking literal in that case, right? But you should feel a sense of purpose and ownership because this is a division of work that you own. With a small company, with a small business, there really is no fat. If there's anybody who is just kind of cruising on a paycheck, you would have let them go long ago because you can't afford as a small business to float somebody who's not taking ownership and really bringing value. And honestly, I think that's sometimes a struggle for employees who transition from large companies to a small business, is they're sort of maybe used to not being seen as having ownership over a portion of the business. They're seen as sort of a cog in the wheel. And I understand that. I came from a larger organization. I came from United Way of New York City, where you're one kind of chapter of a large multinational nonprofit in that case. And they're not, especially when you start out, the CEO doesn't even necessarily know who you are. They probably don't. And so I think part of keeping people motivated is helping everyone understand, hey, there's 12 or there's 15, there's 20 wheels on this bus and every one of them's got to turn. And you should feel a sense of pride that this company literally can't move forward if you're not taking ownership over your work and you're not playing a role. So when we succeed and if we're doing our job as partners, and I don't know that we always are as good about this as we could, But if we're doing a job, then anytime we have a big win, whether it's winning a new deal or launching a great video or a great website or a great campaign, more than likely almost everybody in the building has touched that, and probably a bunch of people outside the building. And so they should, hopefully we can instill a sense of pride and purpose, and that, hey, this is your campaign that you just launched, even a sales win. Yeah. You contributed to this because you probably worked on the last project that helped us get by on this. So again, I don't think we're 100% there.
Yeah.
But I do try to explain to somebody, especially when they come in from a large organization, hey, there's something special about being a part of a new business, because we're really going to depend on you in a way that maybe a larger company didn't.
Exactly. It is a type of person that, you this goes back to another question I want to get to. It is about the individual and the environment that they're best going to thrive in, I feel like, because you're right. If you are at a small business, in our case, these are creative agencies, you're going to have a lot of responsibility and you're going to be empowered. And if, that's not something you're comfortable with, if you are maybe more comfortable in a heavily bureaucratic setting, maybe it's just not the right environment for yourself. And so that leads me to my next question. When you and I were talking a little bit offline before this, I had asked you about management. You said the number one thing you learned about management so far is getting it right before the hire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you really have to hire the right person, and the right person may not be the most skilled in the particular area that you're talking about when you bring them on. I have a really great friend named Danny Blackwell who runs recruitment and HR for an engineering firm called G3 Technologies.
Okay.
And he talks about this all the time. His way of bragging about what he does is, I'll ask him, have you had to put anybody on a performance improvement plan lately? I asked him this recently, and he said, no, because I hire the right people every time. So that doesn't mean that somebody who goes on a performance improvement plan is necessarily the wrong person, but he's taught me to put a lot more energy into the hiring process than what I would be inclined to do. Hiring is not a fun part of the job. Yeah. There's not many people that get excited about hiring. It's hard. You have to interview a lot of people, sift through a lot of resumes. Even if you have help, even if you have somebody weeding out the resumes, you still could end up having 6, 8, 12, 15 conversations to hire one person. And that's time that you're not selling. That's time that you're not meeting with clients. That's time that you're not pitching new work. That's the time that you're not doing all the things that will have an immediate impact on your business. But it's incredibly important. And I've rushed into hiring decisions before. And sometimes you get lucky, but you're dependent on luck. And so, and I think it goes back to what I was saying about the small business. You really need somebody who's going to come in and get excited about the idea of, oh, wow, I might be 25 and I might only be a couple years into my career, but people are really going to depend on me to do a lot. And we hired somebody a year and a half ago, I guess it was, somebody named Alex Ulrich, who a lot of our clients know. But she was brought in young, not a ton of experience, but just really embraced the idea of, hey, I can learn how to be great at this.
Sure.
And the company is going to depend on me in a really meaningful way. And so that, when you get it right, that's the flip side of the pain of hiring, is it's very exciting to see somebody come in and really take that ownership and feel a sense of purpose. And in her case, it wasn't that we hired somebody that had the established skill set already. Yeah. But what she had was an attitude and a character that led to her working very hard to learn her role and getting excited about the idea of taking responsibility and having that sense of ownership.
Totally.
So that's been really cool to see.
Yeah. I'll say one thing to any young person that's listening to this that maybe is just starting out in their career is, I can say from personal experience, if I didn't know coming out of college what environment I would be best suited to thrive in. Would it be the heavily bureaucratic environment with org charts that are too wide to be seen on one monitor, and it's a huge organization and everyone has a very structured linear almost military-like chain of command? Is that a setting that I would thrive best in, or is a more of a startup, small business environment environment where, yes, it might be a little more anxious, but boy, can it be fun too. What was best suited for me? And so I actually had the privilege of working in both environments, one right out of college and then another for almost a decade. So I got a lot of experience before launching my own business to see what I was best suited in. And I would just say to young people that if you don't know what environment you're going to be best suited in, try to dip your toe in the water and try both. And if you've been in one setting for a while, there's no shame in saying, I've been in this heavily bureaucratic company for the last 10 years. I want to try a startup, because you're going to build perspective, and you're just honestly not going to know until you do it.
Yeah. And I think that's right. And I would also say be self-aware. If you get into a small business situation, you go, whoa, there's too much of a spotlight on me here. I need some time to kind of be in a cubicle, in a bigger space. Then just be aware of that. Don't try to force it. I teach a marketing class at UMBC once a week.
Tell us about that.
And yeah, it's a great opportunity for me to talk to young people who are really interested in starting a business. They're not marketers. Some of them are graphic design majors, some engineering majors, some math majors, but they're all really interested in entrepreneurship, and they're interested in starting a small business and becoming a small business owner on themselves, their own. But, I talked to them recently about just going into your career, because it's been on my mind a lot, because obviously we're in a time where there's a lot of turnover with these tech companies laying people off and everything. So, I wanted to have a conversation with them that's ranged outside of marketing and outside of entrepreneurship, and said, okay, a lot of you are going to want to start your own businesses, but a lot of you are going to start by just having a job. And one of the most important things is just be self-aware, know who you are as best you can. And that's hard when you're coming out of college. It took me years to really figure it out, but try to be self-aware. Am I really going to embrace the idea of being a part of a small business, or is that just the opportunity that's being handed to me right now? Yeah. And that's the flip side. Maybe you have a corporate opportunity. Is this really going to work for me? There's a lot of corporate politics. There's a lot of navigating and negotiating kind of company politics to figure out how to climb the ladder. Am I well suited to that? Or am I going to be one of those people that get left behind, while kind of somebody who's a little more loud and better at self-promoting, self-promotion is going to get ahead of me? So just be self-aware, know your skill set. I mean, that's I think, and that carries through to being an owner and being a manager. There are just things that I'm just not good at, and I can't. There's things that I would like to be good at that I will never be good at, and I can't keep trying to kind of bang my head against that wall because the company will suffer. I've got to figure out where my real strengths are and play to those. And I think the sooner that people who are starting their careers can figure that out, the better.
Of course.
And hopefully they don't, they don't kind of persist in a situation that is challenging for them in the wrong way.
I hear you. So we have Will Smallman on today. He is a managing partner with 154 Creative Agency. Any other final thoughts or anything else you wanted to mention to us? To all the small business owners out there that are listening, do you have any parting words?
I don't have any parting words. I don't think so. I mean, I think, what would my parting words be?
Give them some pep talk. It's tough out there, right? We all need, we need some sort of motivation not to quit.
Here's the pep talk. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity out there. There are companies that are growing. There are companies that are growing very rapidly. I mean, I talked about one of our wins being working with this company, Gravy. I mean, this is a company that has tripled, quadrupled their revenue in just a few years. And it's not because they have, some incredible pedigree. It's that they have a good idea. They have a good idea about how to rethink the whole process of being a health insurance broker. Yeah. And that good idea, and they're well managed and they're smart people and everything else, but there's a ton of room to grow if you have good ideas out there and you have ideas about how to do things differently. I don't think that we're in the midst of a prolonged recession. I'm not an economist, but I know that in the conversations I'm having with clients and prospects right now, there are a lot of companies out there that are growing, and that means opportunity for all of us. It means opportunity for small businesses to figure out how to work with these larger companies by providing solutions or products. There are plenty of consumers that are still spending money, so I think the opportunity is there. Yeah. And I think that you have to accept the fact that there is change, and that change is constant. Yeah. And I think back to 2020 for us, and I just think that was, for me personally, just a brutal time because and to completely rethink, along with my partners, how to do what we were doing. Yeah. And it was painful, but I look back on that and I think, okay, well, that was also a period of growth. And that was also a period where we arrived at a business model that is just better for us, that makes more sense, that helps us to honestly make more money than we made before the pandemic. But I had to go through this period of sudden, completely unpredictable change to get to a point where I was really rethinking the strategy of what we were doing. And there's still a lot of work for us to do in terms of figuring out how to make 15.4 better, bigger, stronger. So it's an ongoing process. But embracing change, it's a cliche, but embracing change is just part of the journey of a small business. Definitely. We're this little boat, and you can quickly ride a wave, but that wave can quickly crash. And you just have to be smart about how to not only stay afloat, but gradually add your boat, make it a little bigger. Nice. And I think if you can embrace that challenge, it's pretty exciting, and it can be exciting even when there's a lot of doom and gloom talk about the economy. I
hear you. And we'll put all this in the description of today's episode, but where can listeners find you?
Listeners can find me at 15.4. You can Google Will Smallman. You can find my LinkedIn, and you can find our website. And my email address is right on our website, will.smallman@15.4.com. Awesome. And yes, you can do 15FOUR or the word 15.4, or any way you put in 15.4, that domain will reach me. And we're always interested in talking to potential recruits and potential clients as well.
Awesome. Will Smallman, owner, managing partner of 15.4 Creative Agency. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Casey. It was great.
Awesome.